Quadash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabaoth, meaning holy, 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 Lord of hosts, Yah, He, Va, He, masculine, feminine, as a collective whole, creating the tetragrammaton. And the masculine, feminine, you can find that whole breakdown in this book right here called the Kabbalah Unveiled. In the beginning, in Genesis, which is Bereshith in Hebrew, Elohim said, let us create them in our image. The macro prosophis above, the micro prosophis below, to be a reflection. That's why when the Messiah came, he said, do not worship him. He said, worship the Father. He said, surely if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. He said, once I go, I must leave to send you a comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, which is the Shekinah, which is the Kundalini energy, which is your ascension, your rapture to your higher self. Once you obtain the Christ consciousness and it unlocks in your DNA, and you are to be as a God or a goddess upon the face of the earth. It's the whole point of you being here, to walk in the ways. The Messiah was just the forerunner, to set the foundation for the stage of how we all should be. The second coming and his return is the manifestation of his ways and his energy in us, just in a large number all at once, which will be manifest upon his elect here in this end time. Well, this end of this age. But today we're going to go into the 6th and 7th book of Moses. We're going to go on page 178 through 181. This is titled as Astrological Influence Upon Man. And it also says, and magical cures of the Hebrews. But that's a whole nother topic. The magical cures is after this. But we're going to go into the astrological influence upon man. And we're going to start on page 178 down at the bottom. It says, light and darkness was created on the Sabbath. Sabbath is the 7th day. He who is born on a Monday will always be a passionate man, for on this day the waters were divided. Whoever is born on Tuesday will become rich and given to pleasure. On this day all herbs were created. And that's on the Tuesday. Whoever is born on a Wednesday, the day I was born, on a Wednesday, will be wise and happy. On this day, the stars of the firmament were created. Maybe that's why I'm always watching the stars. I love the stars. I love the constellations. I love reading them. All right, back to this. He who is born on a Thursday will be constantly employed in works of love. Whoever is born on a Friday will become active in good works. Whoever is born on the Sabbath will also die on the Sabbath. So if you were born on the Sabbath, you are also going to die on the Sabbath. If you don't believe it, the Most High don't lie. So I guarantee you, if you go look up records of people that were born on the Sabbath, 9 times out of 10, they died on the Sabbath as well. That's what's interesting about these books. That's why they don't want you to read them, because they don't miss. Let's read that again. Whoever is born on the Sabbath will also die on the Sabbath, because the Sabbath was desecrated on his account. The Rabbi Shehila adds, he will be called holy. Chan Shakna said to his pupils, go to the son of Levi and said, not the constellation of the day has an influence, but the stars of the hour of birth. I always tell people your birth is significant. Oh, it's always these Christians and religious institutions talking about, oh, we shouldn't celebrate our birthdays. We shouldn't do this, this, and that. Where does it say that at in any of the books? But when you go into these esoteric and exoteric books, it tells you just how important your birthday is. Because without your birthday, you won't know who your guardian angel is. You won't know your connection to the cosmos under Pacific planetary alignment. So therefore, you won't even be able to fight off the forces of evil because you won't know how to counterbalance it. Come on. They love it when people are ignorant to the facts of these things. You know why? Because they put a title on these things that make you scared to even go near them. You know? They put a picture and an image up there to scare you, startle you to death, so you don't pursue it any further. They say it's witchcraft, it's magic, it's voodoo. They don't even, people hear the word voodoo and they want to shun upon it. But once you actually look up what the word voodoo means, it means spiritual people, which are the Haitian people, which are the tribe of Levi. They came from west coast of Africa. Jamaicans are the Benjamin. Just like the American Negroes are the Judah. Just like the natives, the other Negroes that were here when the colonizers came here, that was the whole Northern Kingdom. They were Negroes as well. That's why when you go into every other culture, like Puerto Rico and South America, Mexico, guess what? They're mixed with Negroid descent. But back to this. It says, not the constellation of the day has an influence, but the stars of the hour of birth. He that is born under the influence of the sun is gifted with beauty, eats and drinks of his own possessions, but his secrets will become known. Should he become a thief, he will be unlucky. If anyone is born under the influence of Venus, he will become rich and voluptuous because the fire of love is born in him. He who is born under the influence of Mercury, which that is my planetary body under the Virgo constellation and zodiac, it is Mercury. A star is Spica. He who is born under the influence of Mercury will become enlightened and prudent. Prudent means good judgment and common sense. Have that, you know. I was also born on a Wednesday as well, which is the day of the star. But I can't even stress what my 99999s mean, you know. 9th month, 19th day, 90th year, exactly at 9 o'clock. It's beyond what any psychic could tell you and break down to a birthday. Mine is something very, very completely different because it aligns with so many things that have to do with the Hebrew alphabet, so many different esoteric charts, so much understanding because of those specific numbers. And why I have a divine bloodline. Because Mercury is the secretary of the sun. He who is born under the influence of the moon will learn to bear hardship. He who builds and moves in the builds, eat and drinks of the possessions of the stranger. His secrets remain hidden, and as the thief, he will be fortunate. He who is born under Mercury will find all his plans perverted and defeated. The plans of others against him, however, try me if you want, will also be defeated. Whoever is born under the influence of Jupiter will become a just man. He who is born under the influence of Mars will become a shedder of blood. Rabbi Ashta asserts this: he will either become a robber or a butcher, a bomb odds or a judge. We observe that the Talmud regards to the sidereal nature of man as a hypothetical being of itself. This siderealism, pre-existing in the constellation of man, he denotes my soul. The most distinguished persons were their own star, and thus, according to the Talmud, the star of the field, General Sisera, was called Meraz. Judges, Book of Judges 23. The siderealism of the proselytes was present at Sinai. Upon the constellation, says Rabbi, depends the blessing of children, longevity, success in life, jobs. Curse his constellation. You see, it keeps talking about constellations because constellations are the most important things of all. The esoteric and the exoteric. The esoteric is the inward part, the spiritual meaning. The exoteric is the outward, the physical, where you get your allegories, figurative language, and the things that, your metaphors out of the Bible, which would be physical, but they're not the spiritual, esoteric understanding of those things. You can't have one without the other. No injury can take effect upon him, neither can an accidental death come upon him. If therefore a man meets serpents or scorpions by which he is attacked, if he destroys them, then let him be assured that they were predestined to be destroyed by him, although he may regard the act as a miracle. Being who was born under the same constellation stands in close relation and magical sympathy with each other. The Talmud even sets up a problem from these premises as to whether such persons have the same marks as moles, for instance. Same marks and moles. You know how some people have the same marks, moles, birthmarks, on their body, which is identical? That stuff even has a meaning too. The conjunction of the planets, eclipse of the sun and moon, exercise a great influence upon vegetables and upon man. Remember in 2017 when this great tribulation, great resignation, great reset, this great apocalypse, which means great revealing, started? There was an eclipse in August of 2017. A great solar eclipse with the sun, which another one is coming in 2024, 7 years after the fact. But also in the next month, the 9th month of 2017, a constellation happened. Revelation 12, when the Virgo constellation and the sun and the moon was at her feet. It was all symbolism to something. That's why you have to understand how these constellations work. And if you notice, ever since 2019 and onwards, which started 2017, 2018 was just the foundation. 2019 is when you start seeing the plagues being released. And now, as we're in the year 2022, you're seeing great chaos and evils come upon the earth, because this is already prophesied. And like it says, with those eclipses, solar flares, and the suns, I did videos on this before, what it's about to do to the earth, what is about to happen on this planet, what spiritual aspects this is going to have on our body and influence. Back to this. Alright. Samuel teaches when the spring equinox happens upon the hour of Jupiter, the strength of the fruit tree will be broken. Should the winter solstice fall upon the hour of Jupiter, then the grain will wither. But with this, the new moon must also fall upon the hour of Jupiter or the moon. The first hour of Saturday evening between 6 and 7 o'clock is that of Mercury. The second is that of the moon. The third is that of Saturn. The fourth is that of Jupiter. The fifth, that of Mars. The sixth, that of the sun. The sixth, that of the sun. That makes sense because right here on the Hebrew chart, Aleph, Bayat, 2, Gimel, 3, Daleth, 4, Hey, which would be 5, and Ba. Wait, hold on, let me see. Yeah, Ba would be 6. And 6 is the number of men. 6 is also of the sun, the Ben, the son of man. That's where you get the Messiah from, the son of man. That's why 6 is the number of men. That's why I said the mark of the beast in the end is talking about the beast system because they're men too. They're men. But their system is the creature. They are the creature and not the creators, you know? But I can link these numbers like the back of my hand. But look, you see how these numbers correspond to planets? They also correspond to the Hebrew alphabet as well. If you really sit and take the time and look at all these numbers, the meanings of these specific syllables in the alphabet and planetary alignments, or whether it be constellations, dates, this stuff all will link back the same. The seventh, that of Venus. The 8th hour, again, is that of Mercury, because it goes back. Well, the 8th hour, again, that of Mercury, etc. The rabbis teach that an eclipse of the sun is an evil sign for all people. Remember in 2017, that was the beginning of sorrows. Right now, we're getting into the Matthew 24 part. Rumors of wars, nations rising against nations, famines due to the global sanctioning, earthquakes in diverse places. Earthquakes in diverse places is weather in places it doesn't normally happen, which also means literal earthquakes as well, volcanoes, tornadoes, and tsunamis, and all type of natural disaster events. Why? Because of the solar activity that is coming off of the sun, which I did a video on that too. It is as if a king prepared a feast for his subjects and placed before them a brilliant light. Should he be angry with his subjects, however, he commands his servants to remove the light in order that they might be in darkness. Rabbi Meir taught that eclipses of the heavenly bodies were an evil sign. That's why some people in ancient times, I heard this before, it's not the first time I heard it, are a sign of an omen of doom. But look, I read this part before because I have it highlighted, but this is not the first time. When I read this, it wasn't the first time I heard that. I heard that all the way back in 2017 when it was happening. Bodies were an evil sign for the Israelites especially because they were accustomed to misfortune. You know why? Because it tells you about that in the book of Enoch, the 70 shepherds, how we went in captivity in every nation. In Psalms 83, how they took crafty counsel against the Most High's people to come together under one consent to cut us off from being a nation. So basically, steal our heritage, give it to somebody else, scatter us amongst the earth, call us bywords, proverbs, and make us an astonishment amongst all nations. You know, we are destroyed from the lack of knowledge. You know, basically, basically keep us away from knowledge. In slave times, wasn't even allowed to read, you know, because they've been grooming this and setting this stage from the beginning of time. But now it's coming to backfire because the Most High sets kingdoms up just to destroy them and break them down. Just like he did with the Romans, the Greeks, the Persians, the Medes, the Chaldeans, so on and so on. Egyptians. He does it to everyone. So you think he's not going to do that again in this time? He's already doing it. Don't you see it happening? Just setting the stage, foundation. Alright. Rabbi teaches that an eclipse of the sun is an evil sign also for the rest of the nation. An eclipse of the moon. We just had one of those. A blood moon. Which we just had on, what day was that? Was that May 15th? For the Israelites. For they reckon their time from the moon and other nations from the sun. If the eclipse is on the east, it is an evil omen for the inhabitants of the east. If it is on the western heavens, then it is an evil omen for the inhabitants of the west. Why do you think it's been mass shootings ever since this other eclipse, this lunar eclipse, this blood moon? Because that usher in the cracking of that sixth seal, which I did a video on that as well. People better start catching up because I'm in full throttle. Like, I cannot stop. Why do you think it's nothing but books around me? I know I talk fast. I know it seems like I be out of context sometimes because it's so much information to download and try to get out at once. A lot of times I'm talking fast on these videos because my phone will cut off at a certain time and it will literally, it will only let so much data be stored into one video at a time. Then I got to go through all this and make extra videos. And I be trying to just get so much information and plant so many ideas in your head and give you sources and foundations so you can research this stuff yourself if you don't take my word for it, at least, you know? Because I'm not going to steer nobody wrong. Thou shalt not bear false witness. And I ain't got the time. I don't need those omens. I don't need that judgment. And I don't need that condemnation. Sorry. He says, if an eclipse is after these, we read that already. The heavens, then it is an evil omen for the inhabitants of the west. If in the middle of the firmament, it is a bad sign for the inhabitants of the earth. When the sun appears blood red, it pretends war. If the sun has a grayish appearance in the sky, of a famine. That's what's about to happen now. When the eclipse occurs at sundown, it is a sign that the judgment is yet far off. Why do you think the ancients, the Indians, they already knew this? The original aboriginal people of this land, which were also Negroes as well, because that was the 10 tribes that came over here first, you know? And they already knew when they already had omens that these invaders was going to come over here, you know? You ever heard of a $5 Indian? It's these people, they portray, they want to steal everybody's heritage. They want to be a part of everything. But just so they can get these lands and, you know, they can get this funding from the government. And they allow them to do that because that was their plan and their plot all along. But the Most High said, any land taken in blood will be repaid back in blood. And he also said, thee that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Thee that killeth with the sword shall be killed with the sword. And in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, he said, in that day the righteous man shall stand in great boldness against the such that afflicted him, had no accounts of his labor. When they see it, they shall be troubled in great fear and troubled by the strangeness of his salvation. Why would his salvation be strange? So far beyond all that they have looked for. Why do you think I know these scriptures? Because these scriptures are locked into my DNA. Because they are manifestations of what is to come. And I know it. I always remember what makes sense and what's true. And what I bank on. And the more I think and ponder on it, the quicker it will manifest. And the more my brothers and sisters all get on one accord in unity, the quicker that these events will transpire. And our salvation will draw even closer. Thank you. Hallelujah. Salah. But back to this. We already read the parts about judgment. Samuel teaches that the time for blessings is Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. No man shall allow himself to be bled on Monday or Thursday. For Mars says only he who can enjoy the savings of his parent should be bled on Monday and on Thursday, because of both these days the earthly and heavenly courts are in session. On Tuesday a man shall not be bled, because on the day of Mars rules the hour. It tells you about these planetary alignments and this book. The magical book, the great elastic keys of Solomon, the Testament of Solomon. Come on, man. Everybody, y'all got the Bible is the Bible. It's the greatest book. The Bible is a book compact of multiple books and historical records and condensed. Why? How could y'all just take one book, for everything, when that book was literally, it is very truthful, but it was canonized by our oppressors. They got to choose what they wanted to add and what they wanted to take away, what they saw fit and what they deemed unnecessary, what wasn't in their favor and what would work in their favor. That's why you have to go into these other books to connect the dots and get the big picture as a collective whole. They canonize. What did it say in Revelation, on the last page of Revelation? Anybody that adds to this book, I will add unto them the plagues in which I talked about in this book. Anybody that takes away from this book, I will take away that portion from the book of life. And say that because he already knew it was going to happen. How do you canonize something that's not even yours? Not even in your historical record or book. That's why you have to take everything with a grain of salt. That's why they took all the names and words of power out of the Bible and replaced them all with Lord. Because once you understand the attributes of the 72 of the Most High, they're said in different parts of the Bible for a specific reason. Because they unlock stuff. He said on Tuesday, a man should not be bled, because on the day of Mars rules the hour. Wretch explains this in the following manner. Mars has the supervision over wars, pestilence, and all kinds of accidents. The paired exact number is likewise an ominous omen, since with it the demons have power and accidents are imminent. The order of the planets is Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, the Moon. The order of hours in which they rule begin with the creation of the heavenly light, namely in the first hour, Wednesday, with us between 6 and 7 o'clock. And this hour, Saturn rules, and the second Jupiter, and the third Mars, etc. Thus, 7 planets and 7-hour cycles. 7, 14, 21, 28. 24 hours in a day. That's a whole nother story. This cycle continues forever. According to this order, we find that the planets rule in the first hour of each night. And right here in the beginning of this book, let me show y'all something real quick. This book starts off with the planetary hours and alignment of, doing this stuff. See? It's right here. It tells you all the hours, formations, what angels you call upon, how do you get this help in order for no weapon to be formed against you to prosper. There's a lot of people out here that'll still argue with you, want to fight with their brothers. Instead of trying to learn from their brothers and sisters, they always want to go in a debate. Well, this is what this says and that's that. How you can't be stuck? You should be wanting to learn something new. You should be wanting to be vast countenance. You should be wanting to expand your consciousness. You know how I learned everything I know? I took a little piece of everybody from everywhere. Every person I come in contact with, I extract something from them. Every video I watch, I extract something from it. And you know what I do? I put it together as a collective whole in my own unique way. And I buy all the books that I see fit, and I go through them and I read them. You know, I don't just take nobody's word for it. You can go through every book that I have. I guarantee you open them up, you'll see these books highlighted from front to back. Sometimes I don't read books from front to back. I read them from back to front. I might start in the back of the book and start reading, or just start skimming through it, or just start going through a specific chapter, and then go to another book and find something that links with that. You know? Hallelujah. Well, back to this. In the following order: Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, Sun, Moon, Mars, namely in the first hours at the close of Sunday. Mercury, the first hour of the night on Monday, Jupiter, etc. According to this order, in the first hour of the week, days are ruled further by the Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn. The first hour on Sunday morning is ruled by the Sun, the first hour on Monday by the Moon, and Tuesday morning by Mars. Mars will rule again on the same day in the 8th hour, a direct hour. On other days, his rule will not occur on a direct hour, but only during the night